Current military surplus firearm prices are absolutely ridiculous, but are there still affordable options in today's market? What's up guys, Readiness Reviews here with you again. In this video we will be covering the top 10 Milsurp firearms, both pistols and rifles, that are still available for under $500 here in 2025. I know it may be hard to believe that there are still 10 readily available military firearms on the market for under 500 bucks. To be honest, I had a difficult time putting this list together, but I assure you that there are at least 10 plus affordable Milsurps out there. Before we get into it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like seeing this military surplus firearms content here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. And let me know down in the comments what your #1 military firearm for under 500 bucks is here in 2025. We'll start out our top 10 list with a whole suite of Milsurp pistols. These are all Tokarev pattern handguns, and just so happen to be one of the most affordable military surplus firearms available today. They are chambered in the screaming fast 7.62 by 25 millimeter cartridge, and there is truly a plethora of individual patterns to collect. For decades, Tokes were dirt cheap. I picked up my Romanian example here for a laughable 150 bucks more than a decade ago. But of course, with all the inflation the Milsurp market has undergone the past few years, Tokarevs are not nearly that cheap anymore. Regardless of which variant we're referring to though, the Tokarev is still an extremely compelling value. Every single firearm on today's list should be relatively easily attainable for 500 bucks or less, and the majority of Tokarevs easily fall into that category. Chinese Type 54 examples like this one are readily available on the CNR market for about $350. If you're looking to get your hands on a Romanian example, you'll have to step things up to more like $450, and although the Yugoslavian Zastava M57 isn't exactly a Tokarev, it's basically a Tokarev, and these pistols fall in that $350 to $400 range. Aside from Russian Tokarevs, which are quite expensive firearms today, the Polish Tok is the outlier in this list. It's still possible to run across a Polish WZ33 for less than $500. But if you do find one for that kind of price, consider yourself lucky, because the values on these are going up quickly, and one day it will no longer be on a top 10 under 500 list. Tokarevs are super cool, and there's so many individual models that it is a great place to start a collection. Although it's not a Tokarev, while we're on the subject of 7.62 by 25 millimeter pistols, I thought I would give you guys a bonus handgun. This is a Czech VZ82 pistol, and we can definitely see that this Czechoslovakian handgun has some similarities to the Tokarev, but it is a distinctly unique design and a very interesting one at that. On today's collector market, the CZ52 is fetching about $400 to $500, so if you're into military handguns, this is definitely one having a look at. Before we move on to the next firearm on our top 10 list, I want to say a quick eulogy for a couple firearms that are sadly no longer able to make the list. In every previous year, I've been able to include an SKS pattern rifle in our top firearms under 500 list, and due to ever-rising Milsurp prices, unfortunately, I can no longer include an SKS this go-around. Of course, Yugos, Romanians, Russians, and Albanians are all easily over 500 bucks. At this point, even our ubiquitous Chinese SKS has gone well beyond that $500 price tag, with an average market value of about 600 plus. And another excellent Milsurp that sadly couldn't make the under 500 list this year is our Swedish Mausers. These rifles are chambered in the relatively affordable 6.5 millimeter Swedish cartridge, but unfortunately for the most part, regardless of individual model, these rifles are pretty much all 600 plus at this point, and to be honest, they're probably worth it. But they no longer belong in the top 10 under 500. Next up on our list here though is a class of firearm that are easily coming in under $5 That is our Italian Carcano rifles, and regardless of which variant you're looking for, they're pretty much all under 500 bucks. 6.5 millimeter carbine variants, like this folding bayonet M91 Mosquito, are typically about $200 to $300 for a decent shooting condition rifle, and even the more expensive Carcanos like this M38 are more like $400, still easily under $5. In reality, Carcanos are probably the cheapest Milsurp rifle on the market, period, but they do have one big downside, and that's their ammunition. Availability of 6.5 by 52mm Carcano is spotty, and when it is available, it's expensive, and that goes doubly if we're talking the more obscure 7.35mm cartridge. Like our Tokarevs though, the Carcano is a great place to start collecting because these rifles are cheap, abundant, and there are a ton of individual models for your enjoyment. Rifle prices are so wild these days that next up on our top 10 almost didn't make the list at all, and that's super surprising considering these were bargain bin guns for decades. I'm referring to Russian Mosin Nagant rifles. This is an M44 carbine, but all of our Mosin variants, M91 long rifle, M38, and M44, are gonna fall into this category. The Mosin Nagant is famous for being the $100 everyman rifle, but unfortunately that's not the case anymore. From what I've been seeing on the CNR and collector market, the average going rate for a Mosin Nagant is $500 plus these days. Even for super basic arsenal refurbished M9130s, the prices are basically starting at $450 and going up from there. And although you may be encountering a lot of Mosin Nagants for $600 plus, I know I have been recently, with a little bit of searching and patience, it shouldn't be too difficult to get your hands on a Mosin for $500 or less. And sure, these rifles are coming in near the top of our maximum price point. The main thing they have going for them from a value standpoint is ammunition cost. 7.62 by 54R is still simply one of the cheapest centerfire rifle cartridges out there. If you're interested in seeing which military surplus rifles are the best value when you account both the price of the gun and ammunition, I produced this comprehensive tier list ranking the affordability of as many Milsurp platforms as I could think of. I will link that video right up here for you and down in the description of this video if you want to check it out. Number 4 on our top 10 under 500 is a pistol coming from Czechoslovakia. This is the CZ82, and these excellent handguns are one of the most modern military surplus firearms that are available with a CNR license. They are chambered in the decently powerful 9x18 Makarov cartridge and have a 12-round double-stack single-feed magazine. These pistols are smooth shooting, have pretty decent sights and trigger, are accurate, reliable, and best of all, affordable. About a year ago, you could get your hands on a CZ82 for about $250. These days, they're more like $350 to $400, but still well under $500 and easily make this top 10 list. Next up is one of my favorite categories of Milsurp rifles, 8mm Mausers. There is a whole world of Mausers chambered in the 7.92 cartridge, and they range from relatively cheap to super expensive. But even today in 2025, there are multiple 8mm Mauser variants under 500 bills. Turkish Mausers are a prime example. These are serially undervalued guns. I was just at a gun show where I witnessed a couple of these rifles for under 500. Sure, they're not the 200 or 300 buck rifles they were a couple years ago, but it shouldn't be all that challenging to locate one of these excellent shooters for $400 to $500. And another long forgotten about 8mm Mauser are our Spanish M43s. These rifles are extremely similar to German 98Ks or Czech VZ24s, and I still happen across these Spanish variants for $300 to $400 on a pretty regular basis. Since we're talking 8mm Mausers under 500, I have to mention Yugoslavian Mausers, whether it be the M24, the M24-47, M48, or other variant. Yugoslavian Mauser prices have certainly gone up a lot recently, but with a little bit of luck, it shouldn't be that difficult to find one for 500 or less. And that goes for our Czechoslovakian 8mm Mausers as well. VZ24s are excellent firearms, and although it might take some searching, finding one for 500 or less is an outstanding deal. Number 6 on our list is a World War II rifle coming to us from the land of the rising sun, the Type 99 Arasaka. The value of these Japanese rifles vary a lot depending on condition. But if you're searching for a good shooter grade example that doesn't have all the bells and whistles, it might not be a pristine collector grade example, you can certainly expect to do so for under $500. These days, the going rate on a Type 99 is probably $450 to $500. And although ammunition cost is extremely prohibitive on these rifles, they still make excellent additions to any military surplus collection. The Type 99 was the standard infantry arm of the Imperial Japanese Army in the Second World War, and so no World War II collection is complete without one. And although they can be had for under 500 bills these days, that will not always be the case, and so I suggest getting them while the getting is good. I think our next suite of rifles here may be a little bit controversial. Number 7 is going to be our Mannlicher M95 straight pull bolt actions. I say these will be controversial, but not because of the rifle price. These rifles are easily obtainable for under 500 bucks. I've seen several at recent gun shows for $350 to $450, and if we talk about the Mannlicher rifles being offered by Royal Tiger Imports, I mean, those rifles are like 100 bucks. So the gun affordability isn't a problem. The issue is actually ammunition. Whether your rifle is chambered in the original 8x50 cartridge or the later updated 8x56, ammo for these guns is super expensive. We're talking like $2 a round. If you're looking for a shooter, I probably wouldn't recommend the M95, but it's undeniable that these are a great firearm to collect for their cost. There are numerous variants to procure, and none of them are all that expensive. So I still believe the Mannlicher M95 deserves a spot on our top 10 list. I have been singing the praises for our number 8 slot on this list for a good while now. Post-war aluminum frame Walther P38 pistols. These 9mm NATO chambered Milsurps are available on the C&R market right now for $500 or less, and they are worth every penny. Ammo is cheap, they are fun to shoot, reliable, and an absolutely iconic 20th century handgun design. These post-World War II aluminum frame examples are not nearly as collectible as their World War II steel frame counterpart, but with them being functionally the same pistol for literally half the price, there's no way I can't recommend these pistols for 500 smackers. And if you're like me, and the P38 is one of your grail guns, but you just simply can't afford a World War II example, these aluminum frame ones certainly get the job done. Speaking of grail guns, I recently put out a video ranking the most popular Milsurp grail guns on a D through S tier list. It was a very fun video to put together, and I think you guys might be surprised at some of my rankings. If you want to check that one out, I will link it up here and down in the description. Like the post-war P38, number 9 on our list is another class of firearm that I cannot stop talking about, and that is our Swiss Smith-Reuben straight pull rifles. It is amazing to me that these outstanding military firearms are still under 500 bucks here in the United States. G11 long rifles and K11 carbines especially come in between $400 and $500 all day, every day. And we can even step things up to the K31 carbine. Although these rifles come in just over $500 most of the time, you can still catch deals on them for about $500. Across the board, our Swiss straight pulls have one of the smoothest actions, best triggers, and they are among the most accurate military surplus firearms you will ever get your hands on, and they are most certainly worth every bit of 500 bucks. We are absolutely lucky that these guns are still on the C&R market for 500 or less here in 2025. And our final entry in the top 10 military surplus firearms of 2025 shouldn't be a surprise. It is the Lee Enfield rifle. Now I'm holding a number 1 Mark III here, but the number 4 Mark I also falls into this category. I know I've been force-feeding Lee Enfields down y'all's throat for years now, but that's because these rifles are an outstanding value. They have an amazingly smooth and fast action. They most certainly have serviceable accuracy. Replacement parts are cheap and available, and they just look so darn sexy despite being British. The 303 cartridge has pretty solid availability and won't break the bank cost-wise. And although nice examples of these rifles are commonly fetching more than $500 on the collector market, you can still get into a shooter-grade example for $500 or less without too much trouble here in 2025, regardless of whether it's a number 1 or number 4. The Lee Enfield is a 20th century icon and truly one of my favorite Milsurp rifles to shoot. And that was our list of the top 10 Milsurps under 500 in 2025. I want to hear your opinion of the list down in the comments. Did I forget anything major? Did I screw the whole thing up? Or was it a pretty reasonable selection? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it in the future, please hit the thumbs up to help it out with the algorithm and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching and happy Milsurp hunting. I will catch you guys in the next video. See you then. Peace.